Well, the Golden Rain Foundation met yesterday. It was a regularly scheduled meeting. They always meet on the first Tuesday of each month at 9:30 in the boardroom. And joining us now is the Golden Rain Foundation President, Mike Comer. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hi.
You had a busy day yesterday.
Very busy from 9:30 to 2 for the open meeting.
That's
believe it or not, we had like 12 people at the end.
Oh, wow.
So we have some
They stuck
real
it
pilgrims
out.
that
It's
stuck
like,
it out.
like going to the ball game and watching extra innings, right?
Yeah.
4.5 hours. It's a bit of a long meeting, and but a lot of things to discuss, and
we
couple of
accomplished
items.
a lot,
Right.
a lot. And I can go over those briefly. You'll all read about it tomorrow in the Daily Globe, but I'll put some additional information behind it.
Okay.
One of the first things we did was we passed a media policy, which covers, among other things, Channel 6 and
Correct.
all of our communications. And this was something that took quite a while to develop in the Media and Communications Committee. And the result is a very large, it almost looks like a monograph here of many pages, but it exhaustively covers all of the policies regarding programming, use of Channel 6, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
Right.
How you advertise, how you get time. So this is the brand new media policy. It would be available for people to consult, and we're glad to finally have gotten it done. We did some administrative business. One of the things we also did is we dropped the what's called the ex officio designation for people who are not on the board. There was a change in the California law that basically gave ex officio people the same powers as a board member. It used to be more like a Kentucky colonel type thing.
Right.
So we researched it, found these designations were never used, have no use. So we just dropped.
Weren't they staff?
They were staff
kind of
people. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 staff people who were named ex officio. And again, they never used them. They always signed documents as managing agents and what have you.
Just a little cleaning up to do, that's all.
Yeah. And we were very careful to make sure it's not a trust issue. It's not that we didn't trust people. It's just that it has no use, and it could be used potentially for a bad thing because of the powers that are, granted. We did spend a lot of time yesterday on the village-specific plan, and we actually changed our agenda a little bit so that first thing in the morning we had the manager and the assistant city manager from Laguna Woods come in and give us a 10-minute overview on the village-specific plan that has been in process since 2006 or potentially 2002, depending on what date you look at when what was filed. And that then came up later in our meeting. But we wanted everybody at home and in the audience to have an understanding of what we're talking about. And I think in the 10 minutes, using a PowerPoint, they did a very excellent representation. And so the board did decide to terminate the activity on the specific plan, mainly because, as we understood it, there's a ton of money to be spent going forward with it, environmental impact reports, what have you. And there's really no end game here unless you were prepared to go construct.
Right.
And some of the things in the plan were office parks, medical buildings, stuff like that. And without a overwhelming consensus that that's what we want to do, we thought it was best right now just to terminate the plan, put it aside, and let that develop at some point where we might want to sell land or do some development. So that was debated for a while, and then
And that land is only basically part of that, back in that Campo Verde area?
Well,
because there's very little land here.
it's actually right behind the building here.
Okay, this part here as well?
There's 3 parcels up here, and there are 3 or 4 parcels across the street.
Right.
And if we just go back to where we were, It's basically open space, and we can use it for garden centers and other use, which is what we foresee right now. We don't see any construction. So that just kind of puts us back to where we are. It's going to cut out a lot of money because, as the city said, they have to go through each step. They have a process, and in each step we have to provide plans, reports, and that means consultants and money and more money. So we thought that was the correct thing to do.
Okay.
The other thing we passed is guidelines for director request of association records. This is in the public law, how people can get records, members, directors. But the guidelines we put together kind of put some timelines in there, just so that it's not up in the air. And we acknowledged with staff that we understand that they might not always be able to follow the guidelines, but that as long as they're there, we have kind of a guidepost.
So is it mostly like, say, a request is made?
Yeah,
you have
a
3 business
request
days
for
to
a subject
respond?
report, or we need this document,
Right.
and you know how it's done and how many days. And of course, depending on the volume and stuff, you know, there's going to be some variances, but at least it sets out a process.
Right.
So both staff and the board felt that this really helps.
Absolutely.
Okay. The other thing we did was we adopted this is a meeting where we formally adopt the business plan. So that would be the business plan, the reserve plan, and the capital plan. All 3 of them were adopted. So with this, we can go forward with the other mutuals and put together the billing for 2015. Our cost will be $216.06 per month to the mutuals.
Right.
And I think that's $7.82 lower than last year.
Wow.
So we're able to, you know, suppress.
Right. So that's put to bed. That's the final version for our budget in 2015?
Yeah, it's really unchangeable at this point, because this process starts out in April, I think, and of course 5 of us kind of parachuted in July, and had to spend a lot of time catching up, but we're satisfied, you know, with the final plan.
Yeah. And how do you feel that those cuts were made? You know, obviously it's a lot of hard work, but you obviously were able to cut, you know, something from it. And it's about $7 per man or per month.
Yeah.
Just a matter of fine tuning that pencil?
Well, getting rid of the loan, of course,
Right.
the principal and interest payments, there's money there that doesn't have to be spent. And what that means is the money coming in from the transfer fees can go directly into the coffers rather than paying for principal or interest. But that wasn't a major factor. The other thing is we look at what we have in the reserve funding. We don't have bids right now for what it's going to cost 10 years from now to replace a pool tile. So we put what's called placeholders in there. It's an estimate. And we went through those with a fine-tooth comb and found some of them were on the high side. And they're just estimates. So it's not like we're cutting real money. We're just saying we think he can do the pool lining for $500,000 rather than $700. So let's cut $200 out. At the time you go to do something in the reserve, we have enough contingency funds and whatever to put in more money if we need it at that time.
Right.
So that all of those things combined, you know, help the situation.
And as most of us know, we all owned homes at some point in our lives, especially people in our community. And this community is now turning 50 years old. And there's going to be many upgrades to be made, not just at pools, but at clubhouses and many of the amenities here in our community.
Yeah. The other thing we did, a lot of these are pretty minor things, but we approved a modified weekend bus route. We found that we had a lot of complaints about the Sunday bus routes because they were different from the regular bus routes, and it was confusing to people. So the Mobility and Vehicles Committee with staff, you know, really researched it well, and they're modifying the existing policy. They're not for Saturday and Sunday only, so they're kind of rejiggering it so that it makes more sense.
So I would imagine the weekends, the schedule's a little bit lighter?
I think it may be lighter, but I think it may be more logical in terms
Right.
of how you get a bus
Schedule.
and where you get it. A couple other housekeeping things. We killed a capital plan item for security cameras. This is going to be part of an additional study we're doing now. So this came a while back, and we're just going to kind of terminate that and include that in what we're looking at now. The other thing we did, and this is a 30-day thing, we passed a resolution which will take effect 30 days from now, and that's to not allow resident visitor passes in gate 12. And the reason being there are no homes there. And the system we came up with the gate passes were for certain gates, for certain homes, phase
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And by allowing people to go through gate 12, where there are no homes,
Right.
using their pass, we felt we had a lot of entry that was not justified.
Right.
So to go in there, you either need to be a resident or be with a resident. So we did that.
Very good.
And we did also cancel a storm drain survey that went back many years that has kind of been on hold, and there was no real reason to go through with it right now. So these were all resolutions we passed. And of course, there's debate with each one. Outside of the resolutions, we had a few other things we discussed. We're going to do a workshop on a delegation matrix. We found that if you can create a matrix saying who does what, who has a responsibility, who has to be informed, who has to approve certain things, it would work really well for us and for the staff.
Right.
But we don't have that done, so we're going to do a workshop. The other thing is we're looking at the titling of all of our property just in terms of the description, because we keep hearing debates about who owns the property. And some people maintain it's Golden Rain Foundation. Other people say, no, it's the residents own it. The truth of the matter is the Golden Rain Foundation holds the title in trust for the beneficiaries of the trust, which is all of the mutuals. So the answer is yes, they own it, but they really don't own it. And we want to change the text in the titles so that it's real clear. If you look at it, it'll say something like held in trust for the beneficiaries of the trust,
Right.
which is the mutuals. I also am going to take on an issue with the city. We're going to ask them at the end of Santa Maria if it's possible for us to absorb that land right next to the stop sign, so we could have one gatehouse and eliminate the two gates on either side of Santa
Wow.
Maria. And that road was supposed to go through to 133,
Yes, it was, yeah.
but apparently not.
No.
So if it's not going, then can we have it?
So you basically put the gatehouse there in the middle,
In the
there
middle.
at the intersection of Santa
Eliminate-
Maria, and that basically it's a cul-de-sac.
Right. So instead of gate 10 and 11, you
Right.
have gate 10, 11, or whatever.
10, 11.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
and you're also looking for candidates, I believe, for the board here in the next.
Yeah,
month
I
or
had
so.
mentioned in my comments at the beginning that our election is coming up after the mutuals, and we will have 4 openings
Right.
for sure. And we have one director running for city council, which could potentially take her out of the
5.
running. So that could be 5.
Right.
And that's a lot of people.
That is, it could be nearly
Yeah.
half the board again.
Right.
Okay, so it's very important that those people that are interested in running for the Golden Rain Foundation, that they, fill out an
September
application.
23rd is
Yeah,
the
I
deadline,
believe so.
so they can come here and get
Right.
the application.
Go on over to the second floor to the general manager's office
Right.
and fill out the application. I believe a brief statement or something like that is also
not
necessary.
hard, yeah.
So come on over to the community center and fill out that application and be a part of this process. It's very important because obviously we're talking about $100 million really in budget. It's a large corporation,
Right.
even though we're a homeowners association.
It's a city.
It's a city, basically, so there's a lot to be done. Well, thanks so much for joining us today on the program. Some very
Okay.
important information.
pleasure.
And was a long meeting yesterday, so when you do see the rebroadcast, you might want to set your DVRs or your VHS tape machines to slow play. It's going to be about 4.5 hours long, so be sure and tune in for that. We'll be back with more of the program right after this.
Very good.
Great job.
Thank you.